In our red and blue political roundup, preparations are in full swing for the State of the Union as both sides of the aisle gear up for the rescheduled event. The president will deliver the address on February 5th. That's 1 week after the original planned date. In a letter Monday, Mr. Trump formally accepted House Speaker Nancy Pelosi's invitation, writing, "We have a great story to tell and great goals to achieve." Meanwhile, Democrats are preparing their rebuttal. Party leaders announced Tuesday Stacey Abrams will deliver the Democratic response to the address.
She is just a great spokesperson. She's an incredible leader. She has led the charge for voting rights, which is at the root of just about everything else. And she really has, if you look at her background, she knows what working people, middle-class people go through.
Shawn Sullivan joins me now from Capitol Hill. He's a congressional reporter for the Washington Post. All right, Shawn, so Stacey Abrams lost her bid to beat Georgia's governor. She's no longer a lawmaker, but what impact is she having on the Democratic Party?
A pretty big impact, Elaine. I mean, when you look at the 2018 midterm elections, she was one of the breakout stars on the Democratic side. Even though she didn't win, she came pretty close in a state that has generally leaned Republican, in a state that President Trump carried. And there is an appetite among many Democrats for her to run for office in the future. She's been talked about as a potential Senate candidate in 2020, maybe run for governor again in 2022, maybe be a national candidate, somebody who could run for president or vice president down the road. And so she is somebody who generates a lot of excitement in the Democratic Party right now. And again, there's certainly the symbolism of having somebody in a state that the president won in 2016, but this is a state that Democrats are hoping to contest up and down the ballot in 2020. So this is somebody that, I think party leaders looked at as somebody who sort of fit the bill for the moment in the party right now. And a lot of Democrats are pretty excited about this address that's upcoming.
So the State of the Union will take place 10 days before another funding deadline. As the negotiations get underway, Shawn, what is each side of the aisle going to be looking for in his address?
Well, when you look at State of the Union addresses, typically this is a chance for presidents to sort of reflect on the accomplishments of the past year and make the case to the American people for why their policies are working. And I think we can certainly expect some of that. But this is also a chance for the president to make his case directly to the American people on border security, because of course, as you mentioned, we're still up against another deadline when it comes to, potentially another government shutdown or other action the president might take. And we don't know how this is going to turn out. And the president is still demanding $5.7 billion for a border wall that he promised repeatedly as a candidate for president. And so this is a chance for him to make that case to the American people. It's a chance, by contrast, for Democrats to make their case to the American people. What are they offering on border security? Why do they disagree with Trump when it comes to the wall? And why do they think their policies are a better fit for the American people? So I think we're going to see some really, really contrasting and very, very different messages from the two sides when we hear these addresses that night.
Well, Shawn, I know you've reported on how Republicans are reeling from the aftermath of the shutdown. What political damage resulted for the party, and how are they rebounding from it?
Well, when you look at public opinion polls over the last few weeks, it's pretty clear that the public has held President Trump and congressional Republicans more responsible for the shutdown that we just saw, and then they are holding Democrats responsible for it. We've seen the president's approval ratings and image erode over the past few weeks, and we've seen new divisions in the party sort of pop up, pitting Republicans against Republicans. So, this has been a very, very difficult period for the Republican Party. A lot of these lawmakers who stood by Trump in this fight for border wall funding were not lawmakers who ultimately wanted to even walk down this road and shut the government down. A lot of them were willing to back, and indeed did back, a short-term spending bill in December. So it was a fight that not a lot of Republicans really wanted to embrace, but they ultimately concluded that politically for them, the best bet was to stick with the president. But they did suffer some damage, and the question is now, what if anything, will they get out of this? What can they get as we look at this February 15th deadline? Is there anything that Trump is going to be able to look at and credibly declare victory on and say that he got as a result of these negotiations and as a result of the shutdown? That's the outstanding question as we move towards February 15th.
Meantime, the president's former associate Roger Stone pleaded not guilty to 7 criminal charges Tuesday. What stuck out to you, Shawn, about the counts he was indicted on?
Well, I think when you look at his posture, more broadly, it's clear that he's not going to be, at least initially, the signs are cooperating with investigators, with law enforcement officials, the way that we have seen some others who have been ensnared by this Mueller probe in the past. And so we don't ultimately know, what Roger Stone thinks. Does he think potentially the president would pardon him? We don't know if the president would do that. But it's clear, I think, right now in the message that he's sending that he's not somebody who's, simply going to try to strike some deal, at least not right now, with prosecutors, with law enforcement officials, to, potentially give them more information in exchange for some sort of lesser sentence or lesser penalty or anything like that.
Shawn, a planned Senate vote Tuesday for the president's attorney general pick was postponed. The hearing for William Barr will now take place February 7th. Why did lawmakers request more time?
Well, this is sort of a customary delay when you have nominations that are this big and this sweeping, but this does come as Democrats continue to raise concerns about how Barr would navigate the Mueller probe if he is confirmed, and questions remain about whether he would release the full, unredacted, complete Mueller report when that's out, or will he seek to, redact certain things, not present the public with certain things. And there are also questions about how he would operate at the Justice Department, whether he would, recuse himself, be completely independent of this probe, whether he would try to influence it in some way. These are the concerns that Democrats have raised. The bottom line is it looks like he's still ultimately at some point going to be confirmed, even though we have this delay. But it does show you the concerns Democrats have and how serious a lot of them are taking this as they look at this nomination.
All right, Shawn Sullivan on Capitol Hill for us. Shawn, thanks very much.
Thanks, Elaine.